Hey guys, this is Em, and I'm here to talk kids ministries. This is the first of our mission-minded theme. Mission-minded, I've got some papers here. We're going to go through the first category, but just a quick thing, if you haven't heard about what this is, Mission Minded is where we're going to be sharing some resources. We'll be sharing some different things that you can download, use, and just make it useful for however you want. So what I'll be doing is I'll be going through this theme and sharing some different ideas about it, different ways I've used it. Obviously, I did this kind of concept years ago with prep and year ones, and then I did it more recently with 1 to 7 year olds. And so we're going to go through and have a little look at this. But before we do that, we'll look at the 4 categories of mission minded. So this is only category number 1. This is all ideas literally just for category 1. So category 1 is missionaries you guys support. So each church supports different missionaries. And so this is an opportunity for you to teach the kids about the missionaries you support, but in a fun way and make it a little different. So we'll be talking about that today. Number 2 is missionaries in the Bible. That's a common way to teach about missions. There's many missionaries and missionary stories in the Bible, which is exciting. One that's not often used is missionaries of the past. This is a good one for older kids, especially, and it's kind of, sharing missionary stories from many, many years ago. Then you've got the last one is where your class is a mission field, so share the gospel with your class. All right, so that's the 4 categories that we've got, and today we're talking about the missionaries you support. And so this whole concept of theming and different ideas that I'll be sharing is all about that. But before we get into it, I'm going to actually share where the idea sparked from. So this idea, I didn't come up with it on my own. I actually saw something, my first trip overseas. So I was 18 when I went overseas. I was hoping to go on a missions trip, but that got cancelled and I ended up going to America. And I got to stay in a couple of Bible colleges and go on the bus ministries or in their bus ministries and stuff. And so it was a really cool experience in that time because we don't really have bus ministries like that here in Australia. You might have a couple of small buses that might go out, pick kids up, come back to the church, but nothing like a whole bus ministry. But it wasn't the bus ministry that actually sparked it. When I went there, it was at Temple Baptist in Tennessee, was the first place we went to. And we stayed in the dorm and we got to go on the bus run, but it was just before their missions conference. So they were setting up for their big annual missions conference. And I saw some of the behind the scenes of setting up for their missions conference. And they did something, I don't know if it's an annual thing, they did do it the second year, so I think it might be. But they do this thing for the kids. And it's really unique, and obviously it's a Bible college, so you've got a lot of manpower. So you've got a lot of space, you've got all that. And obviously most churches don't have that. And so I've tweaked it that it can work in smaller environments, if you would. So obviously I went there and they do this thing. So you could also come up with some more ideas from this concept, totally different from the idea that I'm about to share. But I went there and they have this thing where the kids get a little passport kind of thing at the start of the conference. And each night or each day in between the sessions, they can go into different rooms spread around the campus. And when they go into that different room, different Bible college students would get a certain country missionary and they would have to come up with ideas. So they themed the room, they had activities, they had games, they had different things. I didn't actually get to go around to each room and see, but I just, saw them preparing for it, making stuff. And maybe they If it was Australia, maybe they have a thong throwing competition. If you're American, that's flip-flops. Maybe they might eat fairy bread. They might try Vegemite. It could be different things like that, but they get to do some different things in that country to help them learn about that country and different things about the missionary, which is a really cool concept. It was interactive. The kids loved it, and they'd get to travel around and they'd be, comparing with their friends. Oh, which country have you been to? Oh, what did you do there? Oh, I have been to this country and this country. And so the kids get all excited about it, and they really look forward to that moment as part of the missions conference. And so I came away and I was like, oh, I want to go to the missions conference now. Obviously, I left before it had finished. So I actually went back the next year to go to the missions conference. When I did that, I still didn't go around to all the kids' rooms. I kind of wanted a passport myself, but I didn't get one. But I did get to go before again and see a little bit of the setting up. I think it's cool when you go to a church, if there's a big function or a big conference or youth rally or something like that, and you actually go before and you get to see some of the behind the scenes. I think that's really cool. I love the behind the scenes stuff. Obviously, I have a watch that is like kind of funny, right? It's one that you can actually see everything working together to make that watch tick. And I just find it amazing just to be able to sit there and watch that tick. Don't ask me what the time is. No, just kidding. But I just find it fascinating on being able to see that all come together and all work together and all unite and just tick perfect because everything that's working inside. Often we go to an event and we don't really think about how much work is being put into it, how much people are doing, and we don't get to see the real heart of the event. And so it's a cool opportunity. If you ever do go to a thing, maybe see if you can set a bit of time to see the before and the process. It will be encouraging, be a different light, if you would. So we're going to continue and we're going to look at some of the stuff that I'm going to make available and some of the different ways I've used it. Obviously, some of my older stuff. So when I first did it, I obviously came back from America, and I probably did it when I was, I don't know if it was that year, maybe 18, 19, that I did it. And obviously those things you can't use. The quality is not great and whatever. But the same concept you can use with this stuff. So I'm going to tell you about that. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you hit subscribe and hit the bell so you can get the next videos up. And if you do want to check out, obviously this is going to be added to the website at kidsministries.com.au. And also you can check us out on socials, and we'll keep it updated through socials on when it actually is available. So I will work on one section of this at a time because this has got quite a few different elements that will be available, and some things are going to be a bit unique. And so we'll talk about them as we go through. But ShareLine Airways. ShareLine Airways is the airline that I created. So it's not a real airline. You can't buy tickets. I'm sorry. But this is the whole concept of setting the classroom up as an airplane so we can fly to the countries to visit our missionaries. And so this is a fun way to get the kids excited, especially for smaller kids. I've never tried it with bigger kids, but depending on the dynamic, on whether they would be into it or not, some of them would be. Some of them wouldn't be. So Share Airlines, obviously I like to have different things, kind of different meanings hidden in different logos or different designs or different names. I don't come up with a name for no reason, if you would. So ShareLine Airways was because we're sharing God with others. The missionaries are sharing the gospel with other countries. And so that was the concept there. My first airline I created, I think, was Sheep Airlines. It was not cheap flights, it was sheep flights. All right, so that one Well, I'd always heard them say economy is like the cheap seats, and it's like the cattle station, but also sheep, the Lamb of God. That was kind of my idea with that. With that one, Sheep Airlines also, I think we'd just done like a theme about animals, and our final animal was the sheep, and we talked about Jesus as the Lamb of God. And so that wrapped up our whole series. And so it kind of went on from that to Sheep Airlines or sheep flights. So this is a bit of a fun way. And what we'll do is we'll go through a couple of the things, and then I'll show you how I've used them in different ways. But I did actually find one of my old ones. So this will not be available for you, but you'll find Where's Wally in there. I was obsessed with Where's Wally when I was young. So he seems to be in everything, hence the reason why it's probably not available for you to download, and some of the things are pretty dodgy. Which was a missions guide, and I'll talk about this. So this was a missions guide that they used. We actually used it for their memory verses. So obviously the whole concept was different, and they would actually get the stamp, which was a rubber stamp, when they would say their memory verse. So keep that in mind, because we'll come back to that as we do the passports. So I'm going to talk to you now about the passports. Obviously, Share Airlines, so you will be able to download this. This image will be available for you, and you can use this whether you, we actually did bags up, and we would put the Share Airlines, and we'd put their tickets in it, we'd put their passport in it, whatever they needed to go traveling for that week. We would have their name on the bag, so it was the same bag every week. We had visitor ones set up, so if we had visitors, it was available for them. So this was how we did it. You don't have to do that if you don't want, but if you have a projector or a screen or a TV in your classroom and you want to use that, if you use socials for your class, you can use that. All right, so let's talk about the passport. So this will be available. So this is the mission-minded passport. So I've printed them out like this so we can have a look. Now, obviously, it is not back-to-back. And let me explain why it is not back-to-back. The number one reason is why it's not back-to-back is most home printers, if you print back-to-back, it won't actually line up. I've discovered over many years, you hold it up to the light and it never lines up. So when you cut it, you end up cutting something on the other side. So this will also make it a little bit thicker and stronger. So the way I've designed it is this one with the person's name would actually glue on the back of the one with the passport. And then all your blank pages get glued together, and then they get stapled together. So I might assemble one, not now. I don't have scissors or anything with me, but we will have a look at this. So that way it makes it a little bit thicker, which makes it a little bit more realistic. Whether you print it on cardboard, paper, a bit thicker stock, once again, you glue it together and it makes it nice and thick. So I've got the mission-minded logo for the front of the passport. So we've got all this like loading inside. So before I get to the normal pages, we will go to the inside page, which is the passport page. Now, I've never used the photo section. I just have it on there for looks. The only part of this I actually did use was I wrote the kid's name on there. We just wrote that in with pen, and then if a passport got damaged or something, we could fix it. But we generally would keep the passports, that way they wouldn't get damaged. Now you'll find often if you do use any of my designs, you will find that I will probably hide some odd things within the design, whether it's a message, whether it's anything like that. So obviously down the bottom, you know how passports normally have a code, it's for God to love the world. All right, so obviously the whole concept of missions up here in the, obviously kids ministries is kind of hidden. Obviously who has a holographic printer? So we've kind of tried to make it where it'd have a logo that's kind of related for any kind of kids, if you would, that would be in there. Just like you have your national emblems kind of hidden within that look. So it's got that kind of speckly look that kind of gives it a cool, like it's a real passport, but not. John 3:16, KM 24, all right? Kids Ministries 2024, because that's when it's available for you guys. All right, so with this, doing this way, this gives you guys the opportunity to, if you do want to use this, say you were using older kids, you have the ability to then put down, get them to fill it in if they want to. I know for a lot of older kids, the whole instant camera has come back in. I know there's some teachers might have access to an instant camera, and you could probably do some instant photos and stick them in. I know that when I was a kid, a whole instant camera thing was an in thing. That was like pretty cool to have one of them. And it went out because digital cameras and phones came in, but for some reason it has come back. And now all the teenagers and older kids getting to teenagers do like this. So whether you were going to try it with that kind of age group, obviously they might be too cool for this. I don't know. But all depends on the dynamic of the class, which you should kind of have a rough idea on what that is. So like I said, there's two ways that I've used this, or this concept. One way is obviously this is the inside page that gets stamped. When I did the older version, it was with their memory verses. So whether you put their memory verses in and they get that glued in. When we traveled to India, I think it was, they had the most extensive visa that I had ever seen, and it pretty much covered a whole entire page of my passport and then a stamp on this side. And so after traveling there, I had the concept of, hey, we can actually take up 2 pages for each trip. And so the first time, obviously, I did it, it was with their memory verses and attendance. So they would get their passport stamped when they were there and when they said their memory verse. But for the more recent time when we did it, we actually got a picture of the flag, the national flag of the country that we were talking about, and then the picture of the missionary and their family. And that's kind of glued in over the 2 pages. And obviously that was with little kids, and they loved using glue. And so they really enjoyed to glue their pages and their flags and all that in. So once again, you can use it either for that, or you can use it for attendance. It could be a bit of a attendance thing, or it could be more of a, this is the missionary we've learned and this is about them. So you can use it however you wish, but it's just going to be available. Obviously, I do have logos in there. With any of these things, when I download it or put it up online for you guys to download, it's going to be a compressed file. So all of the text will be compressed, everything will be compressed. So it won't be editable that much unless you're a good designer and can pull things apart really good. But most people aren't. And most people might have design software. Some people might have design software and might want to change things to their own stuff. If you DM me or send me an email or contact me through the website or anything like that, I can get you and send you a higher resolution, a link. But obviously putting it on the website is going to have trouble to download. So obviously that will be available if you want. Just get in contact with me and I'll be happy to share it with you. So you can change the logos and different things like that. But obviously you will need design. I use Illustrator. So if you don't have something that works with Illustrator files, I can save it as a PDF, but sometimes that does flatten, especially for font, because some of those I will have license to. So if you do want to change it, it's going to change. It have to be generic. So that's one thing. All right, so obviously the whole concept is we fly. So we do set up the whole classroom as an airplane. So therefore we have the chairs set up. I would really like to do a safety video like the hostess. oh, if the plane crashes, this is how you tighten your seatbelt. This is where your life jackets are. I've always wanted to do that, but we've never done it so far. Maybe one day. If I do, I'll share it with you. But with the flight setup, I always make sure that the kids aren't sitting in the same seats. That way they get to move around, and you're not always got the same kids at the front, but you're moving them around. When we did that, obviously the first time, I believe we had a classroom that kind of it was a 2-section classroom. So we did the flights in one section, then we would sing our songs while we were on the plane, and then we would come out and then go into, like, we exited the plane to the country, and we'd have our lesson there. The second time we did it, I'm actually going to tell you a little bit about that second time because it really lent itself to the whole theme. So the second time we did it, it was just after, like, things started opening up after COVID, and the church was using a school building, and schools weren't actually allowed to hire out their buildings. And so the church ended up using different buildings. I think they were in one place 2 weeks and then another place 2 weeks. And so it kind of moved around in that process. Now, when you have little kids, that can actually be quite difficult because little kids, they need that structure, they need the routine. But when you start moving them around in a different environment, it can be like, oh, now I'm going to misbehave now because I don't know where I am and I don't know what I'm doing. And so they go crazy. But the whole concept with the flights and the traveling to visit a missionary really lent itself well to that period of time with the church. Because we were moving, it was like we were traveling anyway. So the kids kind of would start in the plane, which was always laid out the same, and we'd do our songs and a whole start of the class in that time. Then we would get out and we would go to another section where there was a little table spread out that was set up like we were going to visit the missionary and had all different things on it for each country. So the last thing is the tickets. Now, these are very sophisticated tickets. Like I said, sometimes we hid things within them, so just keep an eye out. What I've done for these ones is you've got your barcodes. There might be a message hidden in the barcode somewhere. Your rip-off part where you keep and the kid keeps the other part. So this way the kids can hang on to this part. They can show their parents. We actually did a back-to-back. So we did 2 countries in one place the second time we did it when we used these tickets. So what I've done for you, if you want to use it and you're not tech savvy and you just want to write your kids' names in, that's what we've done. So we've put name here, and it's obviously gate 1 and it's seat A. So these are seat 1A, 1B, and so we've named the seats. So we just literally put a piece of blue tack with a little piece of paper on the front of the seats or the back of the seats with the kids' names. The first tickets I think I did were not sophisticated, so they were literally just a square piece of paper with the ticket name, and the seats had the same piece of paper on. So they had to go find their seats. But this one is a little more cool. I've got it leaving from Brisbane, and then I've got it going to, and then again, a blank for you to write. I was showing my mom, and she's like, hey, that's cool, except what if they're not flying from Brisbane? What if whoever downloads isn't from Brisbane? So I'm actually going to do a couple of different variations of this. Sorry. I'm going to do one that's also got a line here where Brisbane is, so you can write your destination. Like I said, if you do want one that you can change it and you can type the kids' names in, you can change, obviously, the chairs. I've got, I think, 3 pages worth, maybe 4 pages. Oh, actually, I might have done 6 pages worth in the one PDF. So it would depend on how many chairs you have onto what tickets you want to use. So this way, you can use it if you're just a small class, you want to write it, you're not tech savvy, you can still use it. if you are tech savvy and you do want to play around with it more, like I said, DM me, contact me, and I can send you a more generic one that's a little got all the layers in that you can change. Obviously, hidden things in it. Let's have a quick look. So we do have "For God So Loved the World" hidden in the barcode. The time, obviously, the time I did actually make for the time we were going to be in children's church. Down the bottom, there's little fine printing like you normally have on a ticket, and it says, "We have a mission to share the love of God with others all over the world, but we can start that right where we are." All right, a good reminder, our mission field is right where we are, with our friends, in our neighborhood, in our school. And so this is a great way just to interact with the kids on a total different level. Obviously, just reading their prayer letters for the missionaries, it could be hard to connect and hard for the kids to understand. But having that whole hype up of, hey, we're traveling to visit the missionary, can be pretty exciting and get them excited about, wow, they travel so far. And I mean, our whole showing them how far they travel is not realistic because it's quick, but that's how we go. So, all right. I'm about to be disturbed. So you guys have a good one.